everyone, and welcome to A Fistful of Dice. My name is Matt. Sorry. I had to make sure my mic was working there. I just redid everything in OBS, and I'm hoping I didn't break anything, but it seems like everything is working. Real quick note, we do have some ambient music going on in the background. I cannot hear it, nor can any of the players, so if at any point the music is loud to the point of being distracting, please do let me know, and I can either turn it down or stop it entirely. Thanks everyone for joining us tonight. We had to reschedule this game by a couple days due to a work emergency, but everyone was super flexible and we were able to get another date on the calendar right away, so I'm very happy about that. So thank you for joining us on this rescheduled game. I'm going to do a quick recap of what happened last time on Mecha Hack Paladins, and then we're going to roll right into the game. So, on last time on Mecha Hack Paladins, the Paladins suited up for the first time and disembarked from the secret military installation of Tintagel, defending it against a siege of Terran Collective armed forces. Oh, can't hear the music, they say. Okay, well, that was a problem I was not anticipating. I'll turn it up just a little bit. They disembarked from Tintagel and defended the base somewhat successfully against the onslaught of Terran Collective Mecha, as well as gunships and distant cruisers. They experienced a little bit of angst over working together as a squadron for the first time in an actual combat, and also the first time with their commander, Paladin Raptor. But they all managed to survive. They fended off the forces as best they could and eventually escaped using some emergency twitch drives that they realized their mechs had been outfitted with. These twitch drives allowed them to essentially blink away using some experimental FTL tech. They had no idea where they were going, where they would end up, but luckily they all ended up in the same place, which appeared to be a gaseous nebula. And that is where we left the Paladins. In the distance, you see the flicker of lightning. There are ion storms raging here in this nebula, and as far as you can see and as far as your scanners can see, that is all there is. You get the sense that the nebula itself is likely millions of kilometers in either direction, far too large for you to escape using conventional means. Your scanners are flickering. Some of your reactors are overloaded. Some of you took damage last time. But on the scanners and within visual range, you see other Paladins. You see your comrades. You see Paladin, Neon, Raptor, Vogue, Threes, and Rain all drifting inside this nebula. I mentioned last time that none of you could be sure where you were. You don't see any stars, no constellations or celestial bodies by which to mark your location relative to anything else, but one of you, Tulip Cho, Paladin Rain, knew exactly where you were. Tulip, you know that this is the Nidus Nebula, a large gaseous nebula on the edge of the Lodestar Alpha system. Now, I don't know if you've actually been here before in person, but you at least know of it. And you also know that within the nebula drifts a safe haven. Nova Locus. It drifts unmoored through the Nidus Nebula. It's a safe harbor for exiles, outlaws. Nova Locus once carried millions of colonists to Lodestar through the rift. But now, this retrofitted colony vessel houses markets, workshops, and dwellings all stacked atop one another in a massive structure which seeks to simulate humanity's birthplace, a planet known now as Terra. You can't be sure exactly where Nova Locus is because it never stays put for very long. It drifts constantly through the nebula, staying away from the gaze of the Neo-Dominion, the Terran Collective, and other powers that be here in Lodestar Alpha. You also know, Rain, that there is something else waiting here in the nebula. Something important to your family. An heirloom of sorts. At once, you wonder, is it still there? And then next, you realize you're not sure where. But you imagine that in Nova Locus, you might be able to find the help you need to track this heirloom down. What do you do with this information? What do you say to your comrades as you all sort of come to and get your bearings here in the Nidus Nebula? One second. Pause, Matt. I actually don't have... Yep. 1 second. No, you sound great, Matt. My OBS is... Yeah, no, yep, that was flawless and perfect. Here.
Get ready to say that all again. And
Okay.
in the exact same way.
Should be good now. I go ahead and say testing if you would, Matt.
Testing.
Great. Okay, everyone should be able to hear you now. Sorry about that, everybody. Again, I redid everything in OBS, and in fact, I did break something, so now we know what it is. Go ahead, Matt, if you wouldn't mind, as best as you can, restating the awesome description you just gave.
Yeah. So as we rip through the Twitch Drive stream, instead of dithering into the open space outside of the Nidus Nebula, Tulip awakes to a memory. She's underground back at the Union, 5 years old. She's running through this long corridor, which is almost like a jungle of trinkets and tangled wires. Some referential pieces from the surface allegedly dotting this quote-unquote street that leads to a very large and rusted hatch with a faded number on the hatch door. It seems to be attached to this massive decommissioned tank with drills on its feet that had been dead here for some time. Tulip had arrived at her Nana's hut. She knocks, tink, tink, tink. Tink, tink, tink. And shooting a message. Hello, Nana. Tink, tink, tink. And just like the crotchety kind of smoker's drawl that Nana was known for, kind of shoots through the very heavy metallic door and just says, just a second. You're always so excitable, just like your mother. And she'll open the hatch and let Tulip in and says, I brought you some sandwiches. Tulip was known to cook for the Union underground workers. And Nana just takes a sandwich literally in her mouth, like very tank girl, still walking with sandwich in teeth, as she leads Tulip to her workroom and says, make yourself useful and bring those over here. And as she's doing so, Tulip's eyes kind of glance just for a moment at the centerpiece, which is this holographic map display, almost like a galaxy map, but a little bit less sophisticated. And on the pinpoint, you see the structure that is the Nidus Nebula. And then floating in one space, then another after, we see the Nova Locus. Of course, it is not named so on this map. The information is non-specific. She can't quite make it out. She's 5 years old. And as this blip is moving around this map, Nana starts to get excited. She says, look, this is where we're going. I said, Nana, how do you follow it? She says, well, you don't exactly follow it. It follows you. You see how the Nova Locus travels across the electrical branch. We call that the tree. It's focused here. And she zooms in, and there's this area that's a heavy iron storm, almost to the point where it looks like a very thick winter tree, leafless. He says, that is the safest route for the Nova Locus to move. Stay away from prying eyes. That's where I'll be free. That's where I can build. Well, and she takes a deep breath, takes a smoke of a cigarette, and says, you didn't come all this way just to give me a sandwich. And we dither back, and she snaps out of it, almost like she's hit on the screen of her cockpit, snapped into the reality that is the Paladin Rain mecha suit floating kind of listlessly on the other end of this Twitch stream tether. She sees the other pilots in their respective mechs. Of course, Threes a little bit more chaotically spun out as Threes comes out of the portal, and all together she starts to collect the image of her comrades. And then it takes her a moment, but as she starts to come to with a bump on her head, she keys in and says, Mattie, are you crazy? You almost got yourself killed. And I think I know where we are.
Maddie's sort of drifting through space as well, but stabilizes, and the sort of visor on the helm of this Paladin goes from the sort of polarized tinting and shifts to sort of a windowed surface that you can see, a translucent surface that you can see through, and you see Mattie in there, who says, Tulip, I didn't realize you cared. No, I'm fine. I'm great, actually.
Well, good. Just be great and alive, and you can keep being great.
That's a great motto. You should put that on a t-shirt.
I might write it on this big giant robot I'm in. How's that?
Oh, that's wonderful. I support that.
She says, but yeah, Captain, Commander, what do I call you? Paladin Raptor. I think I know this place. I think I know where we are. Sort
You
of.
see Paladin Raptor just kind of like floating through space, and you just hear like a connectivity issue before. Where are we? What? Hey, where are we?
Well, that's kind of what I was trying to tell you. I mean, these fuel tanks don't last forever.
We need to find a place to go, stat. And he starts like repeating jargon through the headset that you've already come up with.
And he says, she musters up a little bit of courage and says, well, I know of a place that's in that nebula up there. You see where all that electricity is? I know it doesn't look like a place that you'd want to live. I know it looks a little bit dangerous, but I recognize this. I saw it on a star map. Back home, back in the Union. I know this is and she thinks on it for a moment. Nebula, Nidus Nebula. That's kind of all I know. I know there's something there. I know there's something important. Yeah, welcome back. Everyone's safe.
Does anybody look particularly damaged?
Actually, Paladin Neon would be kind of on just the minimal thrusters over towards threes. At the end of last session, that's kind of where they left off. So these tethers would be like snapping onto threes' mech and reeling it in so that Neon can get a hold of it and see about venting this core so that you can get back under your own control, threes.
Yeah, threes in his cockpit would just be like breathing heavily, just back and forth. Even like all the static and you guys talking over the comms, he wouldn't even be able to like hear it through whatever memory and flashbacks he's having of isolations and explosions and blood and the side of people that he really doesn't want to see anymore. And I think when he hears the connections being made to his ship and the lights kind of flicker back on and everything kind of stops moving so much, he has a moment to catch his breath. And he just kind of leans back and starts to calmly take in his surroundings and start to go through the mantra of reminding himself that he's not lost in space for the most part.
I think that Paladin Raptor would look at this display that specifically showcases the health of all the Mecha units in the squad, in the Paladin squad, and I assume that everyone has that. Who would be best? Who would Raptor call on to help make all repairs that are needed, if possible?
That would be your best friend, Mattie J.
It occurs to him that Paladin Vogue is the one that he needs to ask to assist, and you just kind of hear a and I would assume that Mattie, you're looking at the same display, you know exactly what he's about to say, and he just says, "Can you do it?"
Gladly. So I guess I would go over to the person who seems to be has sustained the most damage. Like I know that threes is core has overheated, so is just sort of stranded. But if there's anybody that sustained any physical damage, Paladin Vogue would be able to help. And who amongst us has who needs that kind of help? I don't know.
I don't know that anyone was hurt. I know that I wasn't.
Yeah.
Not just armor points.
Okay. So I guess the most that I could do then is, I guess, go over to assist with this core, and just use my own systems knowledge to assist in that, the venting and getting Threes back on his proverbial feet.
I would love for there to be a moment where Mattie kind of pilots over, and you see Neon kind of strapped in, like Zasha is tethered to their open cockpit and has flung themselves out onto the actual mech and is working to try and vent it, but like knocking on the front windshield of this head where Threes is sitting behind it, like, you're okay, like, we've got you, kind of thing. But then when you show up, they're like, thank God, I have no fucking clue what I'm doing. This doesn't look like mine. I've got no clue.
Watch out, Zasha, you're gonna chip the paint. I will also go into, I guess, like, I was not wearing my any kind of like exosuit or anything like that going into this, because we just literally ran from our dorms into these cockpits and went. So I press a button, and then there's this like suit transformation that happens, and I would then like open the visor, or if my I guess like the wherever the cockpit is in one of these things, it would open up, and he would begin a procedure of like basically doing a spacewalk and going over to try to fix this reactor.
As you drift towards Threes, you can indeed see that there isn't really any structural damage that you can see. The mech itself looks in fairly good condition, but you can see the heat venting off of it. You can see these waves of heat just pouring off of the surface of the hull, and there are certain parts of it that almost appear molten, just red hot. And you know that it's going to be difficult to get this reactor stable without either venting some of that energy or having another mech take some of it on.
What I'd like to do in terms of cooling this machine down, I'd like to say, Zasha, if you don't leave the surface of Threes, you are going to be turned into hamburger in minutes.
Well, Zasha is not a fucking idiot. She's not going to touch the molten parts of the machine. But I was tethering up so that I could take on some of the heat from the reactor, so we could get on the move.
Okay. My method, or the way I would imagine that this maybe a method that Mattie has cooked up to deal with these situations, having an experimental reactor himself, would be, as he is sort of like spacewalking, or sort of like launching from his cockpit. There's sort of a tether that's attaching him to the cockpit, but there's also this other like rope of some kind, but you realize that it's like this giant space fire hose. And what I would basically like to describe is this using a propulsion from the system that allows it to move in the vacuum of space. Essentially, this foam that coats all of the mech in like a shell, and then hardens. And so at some point, Threes would just be in complete darkness as the entirety of the mech is just encapsulated by this foam, which then sort of like absorbs the heat and then at some point when it's done enough to counteract the heat, would sort of break off and shatter and sort of drift off into as space debris.
I love that. I can see it twinkling into the stars.
That's incredible, yeah. Okay, so you're essentially going to candy coat Paladin 3s here. So what I would like from you then, Mattie, is why don't you go ahead and give me I guess we'll call it a system test, if that makes sense, to try and utilize this somewhat experimental tech to try and get Threes' reactor stabilized and get him cooled down.
Sweet. That is a pass.
Great. So go ahead and describe. Well, you already did a pretty good job, but what does Threes see as you kind of like drift across with this fire hose and then just start coating his Paladin?
So Threes, you would see that Mattie would like come up right up to like your sights, or wherever your view screen is, and he just sort of points this giant, almost looks like a just a bazooka of and just like metal tubing and like just a huge like hose, almost like this gutter drainage pipe, and there's like a big latch on top of it, and then all of a sudden he just sort of points it right towards you, and he like unleashes it, and then there's just this like spew of we'll say it's like it's actually like this pink, almost looks like wet insulation foam that just like slaps the side of the at first the pressure like hits your machine, and it kind of like causes it to rattle for a second, but then he like adjusts and holds tight, and you just sort of slowly lose vision of Mattie as like as your view cam just gets more and more covered by foam, and like I said, you would then be in complete darkness for a hot second.
Yeah, I think as Threes would probably be, or Regael would probably be like trying to recover, and you would come up and you would have this like this hose thing. It would like send him almost back into like his like attack again, as like he's seeing some guy standing in a uniform, but like in his mind he knows that it's you, but he's almost having like this double vision moment where he's seeing someone else standing outside of the ship with like a weapon that is about to be used. And like in his mind he's like a child looking out the window and his parents like looking outside, and then all of their eyes going. It's just a scene that he's trying desperately like to forget and like stay in the moment. And as like you're coating up the mirror and everything is starting to go dark, like he's like slowly starting to like lose like track of like reality. And in that like small moment of like darkness, he's just like back to breathing like very heavily and just like slamming his fist on the console, just saying damn it. And he's trying so hard to pull himself out of what he knows, or what he's telling himself is not reality. And I would imagine that as like the coating and like the chassis kind of like cools off and the coating kind of wears off, he is like again like frustrated, because there's probably like a few keys he could have hit on his own to like make the thing cool off by himself if he like wasn't having like an attack. And like he's just frustrated that this is like his first mission and he's already like gone. But yeah, I feel like that would be like as you guys are just like looking at like the candy coated like Threes, Paladin 3s, he's on the inside just like trying to keep it together.
And right about then, Tulip Cho would be kind of like smashing at her console, scribbling kind of with her finger as a pseudo stylus on the screen, and just her face kind of looks like a blowfish because she can't really communicate her memory. She just doesn't have those kind of skills. And then just almost like a spam pop-up, like I imagine it being like comically aggressively bubbly. It arrives at Paladin Raptor's view pane, and you just see this really terribly scribbled like drawing of what she can approximate from memory was the Nova Locus, and then 3 different points within this map of the nebula, which is essentially a screenshot from afar. But she says, "Trust me, I'm onto something. And can you believe we were just in a fight? Like a real fight? Ha!" And she like her comms out, and she's like back to busy work in the cockpit.
Mora's mind is on his commander, his former commander, now deceased. And he kind of sits back in the command chair of the Raptor and looks down at his cigar, which is like crushed on the front, almost like it blew up. And he just throws it, takes a breath, and he feels very small. And he fixes the problem that was happening with his comms and asks Tulip. He actually calls you Tulip. Tulip, do you think you can get us there?
I mean, going off memory, Nan said there's a haven there, place for scum and villainy, people like her. I thought she was having a laugh, but this is that place.
Right.
I can try.
Yeah,
but
get us there.
I can try. Yes, Captain. She super formal at the end, and then hits the comm again and starts to gently push the thrusters of her tricorned, almost beetle in a knight's armor, blue mech, the light blue burning behind it, in a short distant trail ahead, but not so far as to leave behind the recovering machines. Just enough to like set a direction. After all, we're on our own out here.
The Paladins move out, moving as a unit, maybe even in some sort of formation, though it seems odd to do so in such alien environs. We see a montage of Tulip leading the Paladins through this nebula, following what her Nan called the tree, and these branches of this tree, these sort of ionized trails that carve their way through the lightning storms that rage here within the Nidus Nebula. The mechs, the Paladins, are immense, stories tall machines, but they are dwarfed by the scale of this nebula and the forks of lightning that are crackling through it must be miles long. You see them in your periphery, just these flashes of power, enough energy to likely power an entire planet, just dispersed through the nebula in an instant. And you rove through this nebula just using your thrusters. I imagine Raptor maybe scouting ahead a couple of times in jet mode, making sure that the coast is clear. And after only a couple of hours of travel, whoever would be in the front, I imagine it would be Tulip leading the way. Though your scanners, your radar is staticky and kind of jumping around, There's this haze of sort of pixelated mess over the top of it from the disturbance of the nebula, all this energy coursing through the gas clouds. You get a blip, and it's not a strike of lightning. It's not one of your comrades. It's something else, and it's something big, and it's just a short distance away.
Are you getting that, Commander?
I'm getting it.
I think we might have found what we're looking for.
Shortly after you see this large blip on your radar, you see several more smaller ones that branch off from this larger one. They begin to fan out, and you only get brief glimpses of them, just flashes as your scanners cut in and out. But then you see visually through the cloud, you see lightning forks, and you get these silhouettes. There are mechs coming towards you through the gas, through the clouds, and as the lightning forks behind them, you get these humanoid silhouettes of these mechs carrying weapons and sort of darting expertly through the gas, coming towards you in this large semicircle to sort of enfold your front flank.
Paladins, that's not a space station. That does not look like a space station at all. That looks like a lot of little space stations with guns, possibly guns.
Get the hell out of here.
Do we get any signatures from these mechs to identify them as any particular faction?
Why don't you give me a system test to try and get a firm grasp on those readings?
Oh God, why me?
You asked.
Hey, I actually did it. Oh my God.
Nice.
I rolled an 8 out of 10. Yeah.
Good job. So, what does it look like as you try and focus in on those readings that you're getting in the cockpit?
I'm imagining it's one of those moments where, like, I see the blips and I'm still paranoid from what's happened before, and I just pull it up and on one of those little keyboards that are obviously, they have no place in a mech, but they're always in them anyway in all the anime. Just typing in on a physical keyboard with one hand, because you have to do it that way.
And the keys never have any sort of symbols or numbers or characters
no
on them at
symbols or
all,
anything.
but somehow
you hit
the
the
character
same
knows
button
exactly.
twice, and it does two different things. Yeah.
Look at Barker. He thinks he's so cool knowing where the keys
Can't actually
are.
show, but yeah, same.
Mine's like
but
baby's
yeah.
first keyboard, so.
I just punch in a couple of things and bring it up and reel back actually the data that we got previously from all the Terran communication as they moved in, because we did actually ping them a lot on our radar.
You did, yes. Yeah, so you do this overlaying the data that you have with the data that you're receiving now. The transponder signals don't match up with anything Terran or anything Dominion. These mechs seem to be unaffiliated with either faction.
So I'll key through on the comms and just kind of chime in. Commander, they're not Terran or Dominion, they're third party.
Would be a good thing.
Probably loyal to the nebula. I think if we don't blast our way in, we should be fine. Your call.
Raptor thinks for a moment. And then he exits the jet mode that he's in and just kind of disarms a little bit to show a more peaceable showing from the Paladins. And he's going to say in the comms, I don't know, what's like the opposite of combat mode or like evasive maneuvers? What's the opposite? Like chill mode. Chill mode, team. Let's go chill mode. And
I was gonna say like standby or
standby.
I just said pencils down. What the hell does that even mean?
I'm gonna
Pencils down mode, everybody.
Pencils down. I'm gonna transform my
Heads
mech
down,
into a
thumbs, 7
sofa.
up.
The Paladin Rain puts on a hoodie.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dope.
Mattie's just going through the giant manual that's like looking for chill mode, and like is considering getting out the insulation again, but he sees what everyone else is doing, and he just sets it aside and puts the hose down.
Yeah, lower your defenses. Let's see if we can't. It might be beneficial for us that they're unaffiliated.
And as you say that, Raptor, through the nebula, you get a glimpse of these mecha as they jet through with their thrusters. There are 5 of them that you can see, though there may be more behind them. They're these piecemeal-looking machines, clearly constructed from various different parts, and likely built upon the frames of like loader lifters, just mechs designed to pick up heavy things and set them down. But they're wearing this bulky armor, and every single plate of armor has this strange sort of curvature to it that has this almost like honeycomb kind of texture, meant to dissipate energy here in the nebula. They're mechs specifically designed to stay out for long periods of time inside the nebula, potentially even surviving these strikes of lightning that you've been seeing. All of them have this strange symbol sort of emblazoned on the pauldron or the shield that they're carrying, or the head of an axe. And this symbol is a tree. And maybe you've never seen a tree before, depending on where you grew up, but Tulip, you see this tree and you flash back to that moment with your Nan where she showed you, these are the branches, these are the paths we follow to find Nova Locust, this is the tree. And we flash back and you're seeing this symbol emblazoned on these mecha, and over the comms a voice comes, and though it's laced with static, the words are clear. Identify yourselves. You've crossed over into private territory.
The Paladin Rain will have something pop up on her display, to inform her that she's in charge of communication.
She'll get it, and then she'll just go like flush in the face, and just go, okay. Switch on. Hi. Long pause.
In that pause, the lead mech like racks the like jet fighter sized shotgun that it's holding, and there's just this and it kind of like holds it up towards you.
No. We're just passing through looking for shelter. Not trying to attract any kind of attention. Not yours, not anyone. We're affiliated with ourselves.
There's that creaky sound as Zasha's hands tighten on the controls inside the mech.
We come seeking the Nova Locust.
You came looking for the locust. You found it. The question is, do you belong here? Ain't seen mech designs like yours, well, ever. And the lead mech almost kind of like, you see the head just kind of look at the other ones next to it. We're getting Dominion transponder signals from your reactors. Do you mind explaining what you're doing out here?
That's kind of hard to do. As you can see, we didn't exactly arrive on a dreadnought. But we are lost. We are disarmed. If you're willing to take us in and give us a little bit of shelter, we're a little bit beat up, and we could answer all your questions there.
Hold a minute. Comm goes dead for a second. You have a few moments to communicate with each other if you want to.
Smooth.
What do you think? Did we hijack these mechs?
Well, something tells me that even though we think the Neo-Dominions, glorious paladins, are indeed heroes, we don't really know how they feel about it. And
To be clear, I never thought that.
Commander, they could try to take us for parts.
Our machines are worth a lot. I think we should.
They could do a lot of
probably-
things. We're kind of at their disposal. We're in the middle of a lightning nebula.
Yeah. I don't think I wanted to run just to get our chassis scrapped.
We're in this cloud. Commander?
All right. Rain, you're still in charge. But keep in mind, if they seem to be some sort of anti-Dominion sorts, the battle at Tentacle Base, we use that as a diversion to steal these mechs. Do you read me?
Yeah. We'll hit and grab.
And
like the
of
holodecks.
course. Great, perfect. And of course, they'll want to talk to me since I got the sweetest mech.
Yeah, of course they will, Commander. You guys do realize I'm the youngest one here, right? All right.
Tulip,
Let's
Tulip, I believe in you.
You're the only one
Well-
who's been here. You know it best. We trust you.
And I think you're the only one that's like somewhat likable. So, have at it, and use that winning charm.
Well, let's
Exactly,
do
because
this.
if you fail, I'm going to have to talk to them.
Yeah, we should probably avoid that, at least for now, until we get repaired fully.
I didn't say agree with me, Rain.
She keys out and like pops in a hot pink stick of bubble gum, starts to chew, leans back and says, "It's the Rain show. All right. Well, let's see how this goes." And she clearly powers down her weapons, which she like unhooks from the hard point and lets float in front of her for a minute. Her shield just like kind of ever so slightly knelt down. You see, we don't mean any trouble. If anything, we're in a bit of trouble and could use some help. Our labor's good. At least bring us in for a conversation. You can trust us.
There's silence on the other end of the comms for a while, yet these mecha with the tree emblazoned on their armor, they're just sort of floating there, drifting in the nebula, and occasionally silhouetted by lightning crackling in the background. They move with the bearing of someone that spends most of their time inside a mecha. You see these mecha do these like uncannily human behaviors where they're like rolling their shoulders and like cracking their necks. Occasionally they'll like shift their weapon from one arm to the other, almost mindlessly doing these actions as if they spend a lot of time inside these machines. And eventually the comm clicks back on. All right, we're to escort you to Nova Locus Hangar 13. From there, you're going to be escorted directly to speak with Governor Holbrook. Are we clear?
What do you say, Commander? He asks you, Rain.
She pops the bubble. Yeah, that sounds great. We'll follow your lead.
Keep your reactors powered down. We see any energy spikes, we're going to open fire. We clear?
Her weapon is slowly like floating towards one of the like thugs, or not thugs, just guards, but with thuggish energy.
Big thug energy. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's kind of like going head over head, the weapon, and she says, "Well, you have my gun. I will want it back once you realize that we're no trouble. Please."
the lead mech, the largest one, reaches up and catches the weapon that is spinning end over end towards them. Right. Follow us. And with that, the three mecha turn and start heading back where they came, and the other two kind of come along either side, almost boxing you four or you five in, keeping you in a tight cluster as they sort of direct you forward. And unless anyone does anything stupid, you are brought forward. You move through the nebula a short ways, and soon you come into a clearing, for lack of a better phrase. The nebula is not as dense here. The air is clearer. There isn't lightning cracking every few seconds. And you sort of breach through one of these gaseous clouds, and you see it gleaming there, sitting at the center of this clearing. It is a ship the likes of which none of you have ever seen. Its size dwarfs even the largest Dominion dreadnoughts. You've heard tales of these ships. You grew up knowing that 3 of these went through a rift at the edge of the solar system, and 2 of them emerged here in Lodestar Alpha. 1 is in a museum orbiting the Neo-Dominion capital world. And here's the other one. This is Nova Locus, a retrofitted colony ship inside the Nidus Nebula. As you break into this clearing, the formation of Mecha kind of break and spread out, and you all get beep, 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 lock-on signatures from Nova Locus, knowing that there's probably 15 guns pointed at each of you as you're brought forward. You drift towards the edge of Nova Locus, and you see it's kind of this almost ovoid-shaped, almost like a cylinder, and there is a gigantic ring structure that is slowly revolving around the outside. And as you pass through this ring structure, you look down or look up, and you see that it is terraformed. There's green, there's grass, trees, buildings. There's a world here built on the interior of this ring, spinning, providing artificial gravity. You pass through that ring and come to Hangar 13. There's a large 1-3 emblazoned on the outside of it. There are ships zooming in and out of it, other mechs, things like that. You're all brought in, and the lead mecha directs all of you to the mech hangar off to the left side, where you're all able to basically mag lock your mechs to the deck and open the cockpits and get out if you so wish.
I think Tulip's mech, being the quote-unquote commander, would maglock first. Then she'd crane her mech sideways, gesturing the arm outwards at all of these like mega cannons that are pointing at them from every angle, and would open a comm to the guard with her gun and say, "Well, that seems a little unfair. Make sure to give it back when we leave." And she decommissions her mech further into the hangar and steps outside and literally waves the rest in from like a step outside of her cockpit. A visor on. Clearly she's suited up, just in case.
Actually, the commander, Mora, is right next to Regael, and will slow down to let Regael dock first.
So we're being just led into the hangar bay?
Yep, they're basically like directing you to these little cubbies to sit your paladins there.
Cool. I have a quick question. Is there any way that I could like run like a lockdown program on my like system without like any like extenuating like power being surged out?
Yeah, I would say that that's likely a built-in feature of these Paladin suits. I imagine that preventing them from being captured by the enemy is like probably a top 5 priority for the Neo Dominion. And so I imagine that there would be some sort of lockdown protocol that you could initiate where it's like, if anyone other than me sits in this cockpit, like, I don't know, something horrible happens to them.
Mine would be set to self-destruct. Because that's
I was
exactly
actually
what I was
thinking,
going
like,
to ask.
I wouldn't know if they had like a
Hero UE
self-destruct
style, for sure.
like a stick or something that you could take with you.
Yeah, like,
You're like, oh,
let's
you
just
have
go
taken
for
my
it.
ship.
Let's go for it. Every single one of you, if you want to take it with you, has a Hero UE style mission accomplished. Beep, like a bit like thing that you can blow up your $1 billion machine with if you so choose.
Listen here,
just in
Chekhov.
case.
You just hung a gun above the bar.
I know. I can't believe I just told all of you that you have that and you can use them at any time because one of you is going to sacrifice yourselves first chance you get. I know it. I know it.
One, 5 at once, baby. What do you
Oh
think?
yeah.
Thank you, everyone,
go
for
to Terra
watching
real
Mecha
quick.
Hack Paladins. This has been a great campaign.
Everybody just blows themselves up.
I will say that Mattie lost his.
So let's use our Twitch drives to Twitch drive to Terra, and then all 5 self-destruct.
Perfect. I love it.
And then I'll fly through the explosion, and then I'll self-destruct after that.
Perfect.
there is an extra special layer of safety or security that Mattie does, and that is that he takes this giant, just like analog padlock, and he loops it around this ring that opens up the dispenser door for his noodle machine, and he just slaps it in there, and then yep, perfect. Everything is safe. Everything that matters is safe now. Let us go. And he gets out.
I don't know why. I just imagine Mattie putting one of those things called the club, the like steering wheel lock, like, putting it on the flight yokes and like.
Yeah, it's all very.
Yeah.
I think there's like a lot of that going on. There's a lot
Yeah.
of just like little analog bits, just like an extra layer of safety.
And then
imagine
you,
those, like,
as
bike
you step
locks.
away, you set the car alarm as you're walking away.
There is a key fob. He doesn't
Yeah.
have the self-destruct button, but he does have a fob.
He does have the fob. Okay, great. Oh, all right. So, do all of you disembark from your paladins knowing that they are at least relatively safe leaving them here?
Yeah, definitely.
I do, and due to the nature of the experimental weaponry equipped on my paladin in particular, I will set my like lockdown to be hypersensitive. Like if someone opens the door and they don't put in the password or it's not keyed to me, just detonate the whole fucking machine, the whole thing. So when I get out and I see my fellow paladin pilots, I give that like grave wide eye nod, like I really hope they don't try something here. On you, Commander, I say to Tulip.
She nods and says, I don't know. Not giving you zero confidence. As she just ka-chink, clank, shuts the hatch to her own mecha with far less grace and security than the others.
How do you know about this place, Tulip?
Well, she says, Nana wasn't much for words with anybody else in the workers' union, but she sure liked to talk to me. I feel like because I was a kid, I wasn't as stuck in ways she couldn't understand. Nana was a bit of a rebel. She was working on something in her lab, in her hut, and I stumbled into her work. That's where I remember this map from. She was working on something here. It was important to her. She was planning on going here. That was shortly before she left. And not long before, well, we were all taken. Or given. I don't really know much more than that at this stage. I got us here. I didn't even know if I was just having a fugue dream from the Twitch drive. But I got us here. Let's just let's try not to get these people angry. It doesn't look like they have the same law and order that we've seen around the galaxy.
I know, it's great.
Yeah, it is kind of nice. You can put your hair down. Her hair is always doing its thing. And she looks over to the mech of threes. Do you think Regael's okay? I can never tell what he's feeling, you know, the mask and everything.
I think that's the point of the mask, but I don't know. I guess it wouldn't hurt to ask. Hey, Rags.
And he would look over at you guys.
There's just sort of a half-hearted or like sort of hesitant, like thumbs up, shoulders hunched. Everything okay, buddy?
I think he would misunderstand what you're asking, as in like the situation itself. Is the situation okay? And like he would like start to like look around like suspiciously, and then kind of like nod to you like he gets what you're saying.
See, he's fine. Well, just let us know if you need anything. You're a little more quiet than usual. Well, wow, this is a big ass place.
She, when you're starting to say that, Tulip will like throw an arm over your shoulder and just say, and Mattie, remember, we're renegades. We stole these machines. We gotta look like badasses.
Yeah, you're all going to need some help with that. But, listen, these are my people. So, I'm going to be fine. Just let me know if you need any help, Tulip, because, this is a little bit more my speed. So, I'm good.
As you say that, Mattie, like this big burly engineer that's carrying a big thing goes, "Get out of the way, pipsqueak," and kind of shoulders past.
Okay, it's mostly my there's always a learning curve. But anyway, come on, let's all go. Just be careful. You all look like a bunch of narcs. And he'll join the rest of the group or start to gather with everybody.
As she like kind of floats away from Mattie and back towards the commander, she'll make eye contact with the guard with her gun just as he's coming out of his mech, and she'll do like a very intimidating but not intimidating to her eye to eye point, and yeah, her grab boots will lock her in, and she'll just be ready to explore this strange new place, this scum of hive and villainy.
Mora's gonna look around. Who's sorry, that just hit me. My bad. Who's leading us to Governor Holbrook?
So it's funny you mentioned that the pilot of the mech that led you in, his cockpit opens and you see that it's this large burly guy with a beard that is sort of braided and dyed bright teal, like this really fluorescent teal color, and he's wearing like coveralls with the top folded down, so he's got the kind of like the sleeves hanging down, and he's just wearing like a oil stained tank, and he drifts down from his mech in the low gravity, and as he touches down, his boots sort of click down on the plating. He smooths his beard down and says, "All right, come with me. You got to speak with the governor before we let you wander around on your own." And he kind of almost does a double take as he finally looks at the five of you for the first time and says, "Shit, y'all a bunch of just kids. What? Well, listen, those are questions for the governor. Come with me, quick if you please." And before you head out, I want to ask one question. Zasha, the crystal, do you leave that in the cockpit or do you take it with you?
Necklace now.
Okay, dope. That's what I figured.
It was already on a chain, so I figure it would be pretty inconspicuous.
I didn't want to make any assumptions, but I figured you were wearing it. Okay, great. So, this guard, this mecha pilot, leads you out of the hangar, and the hangar is this bustling sort of hive of activity. There's loader mechs that are picking up cargo, unloading it off of ships, loading it onto other ships. There are sentry turrets kind of slowly revolving, keeping an eye on everything. Engineers going back and forth, and as you disembark your mechs and you're heading off out of the hangar, this mechanic walks by and she pitches her hat back and looks up at the towering paladins and goes, "God damn," looking at the design of these mechs, these hot off the assembly line paladin suits, the likes of which have probably never been seen around these parts. The mecha pilot, he introduces himself as Ernst. He leads you through these tunnels branching out from the hangar. You cross by a couple of banks of windows, and you can see out the windows, you see the nebula. Beautiful when you're not flying through it. Just this orange and red and violet sort of swirl with these flashes of lightning. And you see ships flying to and fro, mechs patrolling along the outside, and you catch sight of that ring, that habitat ring, just slowly revolving around the circumference of Nova Locus. Before you reach the governor's quarters here to speak with them, I think we should probably take a quick bathroom break, allow everyone to get up and stretch a little bit. And while we do that, I realized I didn't give anyone a chance to introduce themselves, so we're going to do that really quick before we go on break. Tell everyone who you are, who your character is, and where they can find you on the internets. We'll go ahead and start with JB.
Oh God, me? Hello. I am JB. You can find me everywhere at Drop the Die. I do tabletop RPG stuff, and a lot of it is focused on D&D 5th edition for now, but hopefully that changes soon as everyone jumps ship.
Not everyone. Aaron, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Aaron. Tonight I'm playing the Gaseous Nebula. I'm playing Mattie J, Paladin Vogue. Just look up Aaron DVS, AARON DVS. Looking forward to the rest of the game.
Tonight I'm playing the Gaseous Nebula. I've never related more. I'm realizing I'm using the Zoom chat and not the overlay, so if we're jumping around people, that's why. Matt, go ahead, man.
Yeah, I'm Matt B instead of Matt C. And I'm playing Tulip Cho, our scrappy quipster tank girl meets Ed from Cowboy Bebop kind of vibes. The youngest, the most naive, lots of explosives.
And certainly indispensable in this current situation that we're in. John, go ahead.
Hey everybody, I'm John. If you want to see any more of me, you can catch me at Out of Character. That's where I do D&D stuff. If you like to see me play video games, you can catch me at Doombot Gaming on Facebook. Yeah, I am playing Paladin 3s, a guy who goes by the name of Regael and wears a mask. He is the Shar clone of this game. And as you have seen, he has a lot of history and a lot of edge. So, yeah, excited to finish this off.
All right, and finally Barker.
Hi, everybody. My name is Barker, and I am playing Mora, call sign Paladin Raptor, the commander of this squad of paladins. But the last battle and the loss of his director, Saxifrage, is hitting him in a strange way, and he's feeling a little bit out of place. First thing I want to do, I'm Inspire the Barks on Twitter and Inspire the Story on Twitch. I'm using these really, really cool cards, these Intuiti cards. It's an Italian company. To just they're just images, and I'm using them to occasionally flip them over and get some inspiration over what I see. And so it's kind of a cool way to stay creative about your character and make decisions. And it led to me just kind of deciding that Mora would take a back seat. He feels beaten and would just kind of let it fly. And Tulip Cho is the commander now at this point. Tomorrow morning and every morning on the Absolute Tabletop official Facebook group Discord, you should jump in. And we've been hanging out with our Australian friends who have wonky time zones and can only jump in at like 11 or 10:30 in the morning Eastern. So please join us for some creative time in our Discord. That's it.
Awesome, and thank you everyone again for watching. We're just going to take a short break, and then we'll be back, so please do stick around. Hello, everyone. We're back. Thanks for sticking with us. The Paladins are marching down this corridor, this long tunnel, and outside the window they see the nebula. This Mecha pilot, Ernst, with his dyed teal beard, leads the way. And eventually you stop at this big slab of a door. It's a pressurized door. And Ernst wraps his knuckles on the door. A keypad slides open on the left side. He puts in a code. The keypad slides shut, and there's a hiss. And the door slides into the wall. And there's a gust of air from out of this room. And it is earthy and loamy and perfumed with flowers, plants. And even if you grew up on an actual planet, for the last few years at least, you've been living in a asteroid installation, and these smells that come out of this room, they stir so many feelings and so many memories in each of you. Smells that you have either never experienced or pine for. Ernst leads you into the room. It's dim, but pleasantly so. Almost like when you throw a scarf over a lamp for mood lighting. There's just this nice ambiance to the room. And paired with the scents that are happening here, you all feel yourselves ease. Just a bit, maybe. The room itself is staged like a large garden. There are pots and trenches here and there filled with soil. Most likely not actually soil, but it's doing its job. These plants are large, draping over the sides of their enclosures. Plants of all varieties, from worlds across Lodestar Alpha and potentially elsewhere. And at the center of this garden, there stands a man. He is lean and lanky. He is draped in this comfortable long coat of some sort of silk. It has this floral pattern sort of sweeping up the back of it. His hair is long and oiled back, and there's most of it is kind of clipped back in this long ponytail. He has a smattering of beard on his face and these tiny little, not actually doing anything, glasses perched on the end of his nose. It's hard to discern his age. He's either a very mature-looking 30-year-old or a very young-looking 50-year-old. And as he turns, you see that he has perched on his shoulder a raven, this large black bird. And as he turns and sees you all, he's feeding the bird and going, making little kissy sounds as he's feeding the raven. Ernst kind of steps aside and says, "Governor Janice Holbrook. Governor, these are the newcomers." The governor finishes feeding his raven, and the bird takes off and flies off into the distance of this way too large garden. The governor sweeps his gaze over all of you, taking a long moment to look each of you up and down. And then he says, "Come, sit. It has been some time since I've spoken to anyone from outside of the colony. And based on the looks of you five and those machines you piloted in my hangar, well, I assume you have some stories to tell me." He gestures, and you see that there's this conversation pit in the middle of this garden, this sunken, comfy seating area with like booth seating all along the edges, and in the center is a fire pit. This guy is essentially who I want to be. I just want to put that out there. There's a fire pit in the middle that is just kind of smoldering and not so much putting out heat as it is just adding to the overall feel of this room. He comes and he sits at one of the corners of this, draping his hand along the back, and gestures for all of you to make yourselves comfortable.
Paladin Rain will kind of tip up a hat at him as she walks by. She's got this oversized Zaku green military hat, and she'll slink right into his overly comfy furniture, like feet up on another piece of it, kind of like chewing her teeth and trying to like produce kind of a gravelly tone in the likeness of Commander Mora, and says, well, we've been trying real hard to make it here to you, sir.
Yar.
Oh, I think you might have been muted there, Matt.
Yes.
I sure was. I was double muted just in case. I had my mic muted and I was muted in the Zoom. As you're speaking, Tulip, Ernst from behind you speaks up and says, "That's not what she sounded like when she got here."
yeah. Sorry, something in my throat. Hello. I am told you are the mayor.
Governor, actually.
Governor. Yes. Sorry, titles.
But, listen, you can call me Janice. That's fine.
Jazz. All right, Jazz. Well, meet the Rain Squad. She gestures very flamboyantly to everyone around. We're renegades, she says, wide smiled, teeth.
JB
white.
is dying right now. He can't even with this.
But she, okay, but yeah, she's straight facing it. She's not laughing like I am. She is, she is serious as she can be in her tone about that, as ridiculous as it sounds once it's out loud.
Mattie is just trying to like block his face with several throw pillows. Is just trying to find the right angle in which he can't be seen.
There's a silent moment after Tulip speaks, in which a peacock walks by, just in the background.
Just a peacock.
And the governor says, "The Rain Squad. Okay. Well, I can't help but notice that the five of you appear very young, teenagers, even, if I might be so bold. So, I'll be honest with you all. If you promise to be honest with me, and maybe we can work out some sort of arrangement here where both of us walk away happy. And maybe even lighter consciences, heavier pockets, that sort of thing. So, 5 teenagers, 5 state-of-the-art mechas sitting in my hangar. Now, I know better than to try and touch those things. But just looking at them on the cameras, those are some beefy machines you're piloting there. So, I'll ask you just once, and I want you to be honest with me. How did you come by those machines? And why did you bring them here?
Did you hear about the gambit at Tintagel?
I've heard that something went down over there. The edge of the system. Some skirmish between the Terrans and the Neos. Doesn't exactly concern me.
But it was good cover for a job. How do you think we got these mechs? We were riding with the Terrans, coordinating with them. We were part of the attack, but we went rogue, our own way. You seem like people that could understand that sort of thing.
He looks around, and as he does so, like some sort of like lupine creature, like runs by in the background, and he says, "Wouldn't be where I am if I didn't choose my own path. Continue."
Well, we had known for some time that these particular mechs were there, We just had the Terrans do the dirty work for us. It was a quick sweep. And we got out of there. Quick and fast. And we came here. And then her like serious voice kind of elates into Tulip's regular tone. We came here because I knew I was supposed to be here. Because my nan told me she was going to be here.
As you're speaking, Ernst comes up behind Janice and whispers something in his ear and hands him a data pad. And Janice continues listening, making eye contact with you, but occasionally glances down at this data pad. And as you finish, he sets the data pad down. The radiation readings off of those Mecha, very interesting. Kind of radiation that only comes off something that's recently made a fulcrum jump. So, you twitched in here, didn't you?
She kind of like loses her cool and like looks around instinctively to the fellow pilots, not realizing she does so, and then scrambles back to eye contact.
I think Mattie would interrupt as you're looking around for help, saying, you know, they these things, they're state of the art. They sense danger and they almost, these things almost jump for you. They pilot themselves. At this point, he's also like adjusting his collar that's like hiding the jack that is in his neck. He's like moving the like little. He's just kind of like, you know, pushing it up and kind of moving his hair a little bit. It's amazing, these things.
Right. So, correct me if I get any of this wrong. I want to make sure that I understand fully what you're telling me. The 5 of you were running with the collective, and when they attacked Tintagel, you went rogue, snapped up 5 state-of-the-art mecha for yourself, and used their built-in fulcrum drives to twitch on over to me.
You sure are bright, mister. Real bright. I could see how you became governor, mayor, governor.
Right. So, the real truth, Rain Squad, is that it really doesn't matter to me how you came by these mecha or what you're doing here in Locus. What matters to me is what we do next. So, Hangar 13 is yours. As long as you stay here, you can house your mechs there. They'll be safe, secure, and under guard 24 hours a day. Actually, the days here are 38 hours long. 38 hours a day, 8 days a week. That's right. There's an 8th day here. You could do whatever you want. It's great. You can stay here as long as you want. But I have one condition. It's a teensy tiny little condition. And it's all I ask. Anytime I need a job done, I have your guarantee that you'll see to it.
Mora says nothing, but he looks grim as he's kind of sitting against this like bed of grass, and there are like 5 hedgehogs just like clinging to him and climbing up him and like nuzzling at his face, and he's not having it, but he's nervous about this agreement. You can tell.
Yeah, Tulip would just say, well, seems like we're between an asteroid and a solar system here. That's not an analogy. She just like chews on her gum a little bit more and just says, listen, the rain squad's good for any kind of work. As long as you have our backs and can make sure that no one touches our mechs while we're here, maybe give us a little support in getting them back to what they're supposed to be, I'm sure we could run a patrol or two. Right, guys?
I won't hurt civilians. It comes out so loud and echoey in the chamber, like she's been trying not to say it, but Zasha just throws it out like she's screaming over a crowd almost. And there's this emerald green tree snake kind of creeping up onto her shoulder. I won't.
Okay, yeah, definitely not that though. We're definitely not doing that.
There's a beat in which Janice leans forward, kind of leaning on his knees, and he says, "Hurt civilians? Who do you think I am, the Neo-Dominion?"
Oh, you got him! You got him! Oh, yeah, no. Fuck those guys, right?
There's a moment, and Janice says, "I won't ask you to do anything that would harm people that don't deserve it. I can promise you no civilian will come between your crosshairs."
Well, Rain Squad never shies away from generous work.
It's like we always say, when it rains, it pours.
We never
We don't say that.
We've never said that.
Guys, I'm trying to make it work.
She says, sounds like it's a deal.
Sounds like it's a deal. He stands and walks over to you, Tulip, and he reaches out a hand, and you see these like long, thin fingers, each of them adorned with a ring. He reaches his hand out to shake, and he says, "I never break a promise."
She reaches out a little hesitantly at first, and her hand is quite small, and she's quite small, so it looks small as it's approaching these gangly fingers. She pauses for a minute and says, "Where the heck did you get all these animals?" And she leans in and grabs his hand as he goes to reply, distracting hopefully distracting him from her discomfort as like a bead of anime sweat drips.
He grips your hand, shaking it, and he says, "Most of them are grown here. Some of them are endangered from other planets. Some of them are gifts. Various places. I can't help myself. I like to collect rare and wondrous things."
You sure are cool, mister.
"Indeed I am." He lets your hand go, and he says, "Ernst, see to it that these delightful young people are given quarters, food, whatever they want. And of course you have free reign here of Nova Locus. You can come and go as you please. The habitat ring is particularly delightful if you want to get some fresh air. Now, I have another meeting directly after this that I have to see to, so I'm going to go over to the garden on the other side of the installation, and Well, I hope to speak to you again very soon, Squadron Rain. And as you know, when it rains, it pours, he says, pointing at Mattie Jai.
Yeah, I put my hand up for a high five.
He grabs your hand and like shakes it like he doesn't know what to do with it, and then sweeps out of the room with a flourish of perfumed air, leaving you all in the middle of this extravagant garden.
The perfumed air almost like she walks into essentially like a concentration point, like maybe the vent that is pumping it out, and she just like coughs as she's coming through it, and just whispers under her breath to Mattie, sure don't know why my nan wanted to go to a place like this. Guy's a creep. Like as quietly
fucking
as
rules. This place fucking rules. Look around. There's animals. There's grass. There's look at this place. That guy fucking rules. That guy has a raven. What the? This is awesome. This isn't like. Listen, I know that all of you have been spending all of your time amongst in Dominion mess halls and stuff like that, eating nutrient bars and supplement packages and all kinds of nasty shit. But this is where life is. These people have freedom. These people live away from all of this shit. It's great. I never want to leave.
I think he changed my mind.
Let's go to that habitat ring and get fucked up.
I think while Mattie is like ranting about how great this place is, Regael would like pull Zasha aside and say, he asked a really good question. Why did we teleport here? There was nothing around here. Why would we have to come here specifically?
And as he asks that question, Zasha, you get that flash in your mind of Saxifrage on your HUD right before it happened.
Zasha's eye is twitching, and it has been the whole time this conversation has been going on. But when you step aside and she kind of reels this long green snake off of her shoulder and puts it back into the tree, she says, these were the coordinates I was given. And she kind of reaches up and twirls this crystal between her fingers. And she says, Saxifrage sent us here. There has got to be something here for us.
I agree.
Part of this that we have to see.
The director must have known about this place, which means there's an answer here somewhere.
You see Mora's looking at you guys while you're having this conversation, and as soon as you make eye contact, he kind of looks away.
Mora, Commander, buddy, you seem far less, you seem a little bit more quiet than usual. I mean, I know I've only met you for less than 24 hours, but what's wrong?
He shoves a hedgehog off, and another one climbs on. He shoves that one off, and the first one climbs back. He just like can't get rid of them. It's the endless hedgehog. For some reason, they love him, but he stands up, and it like crawls up his back, and he asks you. He says, "What's the mission?"
Survival, sir.
I look at all of you, sort of dumbfounded, and he just kind of like looks at all of you as if like, come on, like you should know this. And he says, "Fuck the mission. We're free, baby. We made it off that dumb rock. we have we are out, our chains are broken, our gates are open, we are free. We don't have to worry about the Dominion. We don't have to worry about the Terrans. We don't have to worry about any of that shit anymore. The war, who cares? The war's never going to end. You know what I don't see here? I don't see war. And you know what? You might have been okay. Listen, I was 10 years old when I went to Tintagel. 10 years old. The last time I saw a place like this, grass, greenery, bushes, hedgehogs, was a park in my home, near my home. When I was 9 years old, they took me there for a picnic, and then the next thing I knew, I was on some transporter to Tintagel, where I hadn't seen green for years unless it was on some kind of display. And now you're here, you're free of your bonds, and you act like, and you want to go right back into them. You want to put those chains right back on yourselves.
And Mora speaks up loudly. Some of us are fighting for something.
And behind that loud bark from Mora, you'd hear like the click of a gun as Threes would point his gun directly at you, Mattie, and say, "That's heresy. If this is where you want to die, then I can do that for you. But none of us are walking away from this right now."
Zasha's fists are kind of shaking by her side as well. And she says, "Maybe it was because you were too young. But I saw when the primacy came. I saw the video feeds of worlds being glassed. I've lost people to the war. It's not going to just stop if no one fights it."
He hears all this, but he locks eyes with the eyeless mask on Regael's face. The gun probably straight between his eyes. And he says, his face goes from the flippant defiance to a more a defiance that is more mature, more there is a seriousness now in his face when he looks at you, and he says, "I've lost people too. I lost my brother. I saw his mech on the screens turn into millions of bits of dust. I've seen that with my own eyes too. But if my blood has to paint this green grass red, I would gladly shed it. A free person. A person unshackled by generals, commanders, orders. I will gladly die free than live a slave."
Mora steps forward and attempts to put his hand on Regael's pistol, just near the top gently, and attempts to maybe push it down slightly. What does Regael do?
He would look at you and allow you to do so. He would, cautiously wait to see what's about to happen.
Threes, do you think that maybe you're all right? And maybe we do need a little bit of freedom in this moment. We've been through hell. And maybe we should, I don't know, make it less cold. Go find a place and have something to drink and eat. Take a look around.
And Regael would look at you and say, there's no one here arguing against having shore leave. Obviously, we all need a break, but there's a difference between saying, I selfishly will be free, versus saying that as a soldier, I've shackled myself so that others can be free. And he looks back at Mattie and he says, you can be free as much as you want. We all have the self-detonator. If you want to be free, Mattie, you know what you need to do. We're soldiers now. We're not civilians. Act like it. And then he'll walk out.
And as you're starting to walk out, he says, he'll turn around and he says, well, give freedom a taste tonight. See how much you like it. And then get back to me. And he will look at the rest of you, and he will look at Mora, locking eyes with Mora, and he says, listen, Commander, I know that I didn't follow your orders. Don't take that as a lack of respect for you or your command. But in the moment, I saw a greater threat. And it was more important to me to save the people on that station than it was to blow up a bunch of ships.
He puts his hand on your shoulder and he says, Mattie, following my orders would have gotten you killed. And he looks down at his uniform and says, I think we should give the commander thing a break for a moment. And he thinks of Saxifrage, asking him, are you ready? Before entering into his mecha.
Well,
and he thinks to himself, maybe someday.
Well, all right, kiddies. Let's go to that habitat ring and let's find something worth dying for. And he's gonna start walking out.
The Tulip would kind of be the last to leave. Very red in the face and boiling like a tomato, like beads of tears at the edge of her eyes, just kind of beating herself up because she grumbles under her breath. This is what happens when I'm commander.
Right in front of you, Tulip, you see Zasha kind of stop at the door on the heels of Mora, and she reaches up and grabs one of these big, beautiful, wide leaves and rubs it between her fingers, her gloved hand. And there's that strange moment where she looks at it, and then she crushes it in her fist and pulls it off of the tree and just kind of crumbles it up and drops it as she walks out of the door and leaves you behind.
Damn. Tulip kind of stares at it as it crumbles to the floor and takes a deep breath and sniffs her tears away in like a burst and just like hustles after last. trying to catch up.
Unmute.
I'm
My
pulling
sweet baby.
I'm pulling a real Nate Vanderzee this evening. Thank you. Is everyone heading to the habitat ring? I know Threes, you walked out first. Where were you headed?
They were supposed to be giving us like some kind of quarters or something to stay in, right?
Yeah, and if you step out of the room, you would quickly find Ernst, who is sort of waiting at the end of the hallway. And if you inquire about the living quarters, he would take you back to the hangar. And up on the upper levels of the hangar, there's like a dorm, basically. There's like this common living space with like some couches and seating and a little like kitchenette. And then there's rooms off of this living space. And in the main living space, there's this big bank of windows. And as you kind of walk in and maybe like toss your stuff down and look out the windows, there are the Paladins. They're all standing in a row on the other side of the hangar. And so you can literally stand in this room and look and see your mecha. They likely set this up to make you feel like you were near your mecha and nothing bad was going to happen to them. Give you a place where you felt a little bit more safe and secure and potentially left your guard down a little bit. But it's definitely comfortable and furnished well.
So, sorry, what was the name of the guy again?
The governor's name was Janice Holbrook.
Right, sorry, the guy that's leading me, the guard or whatever.
Ernst,
right. So before Ernest would leave, I would ask him and I would say, so I noticed that the governor didn't say what would happen if we left.
He sure didn't. But, well, let's just say, I'd like to see you try and find your way out of the nebula without us.
And with that, he would just go about unpacking his stuff.
As Tulip would pass Paladin Raptor, she just kind of like she would come up behind him and he'd just feel a light like punch on the arm, like a small but firm and wiry fist. Pow. Just as Mora, if Mora would turn at the punch, her crying would be hitting the face where it's turning into a laugh and a smile, and she would just say, being commander is not all it's chalked up to be.
Who do you say this to?
You.
Was it Mora? Okay.
Yeah.
You see something that you have not seen yet. At the corner of Mora's mouth is a sly smile, and it disappears as quickly as it appeared. And he just lets out a nope, and he just like fluffs a sheet on a bed. And like there's like a hummingbird in there that flies out. What the? And like enters into the other passage.
Well, good night then. She rockets out of there.
And I think that Mora is going to go on the lookout for some sort of facility. How old is Mora? We never actually had that conversation. I know that Mora is a little bit older than the other Paladins.
Yeah, so I imagine that the other Paladins are around 17. Some of them might be older, some of them might be younger, so ultimately it's up to you, but I imagine that Mora might be more in the realm of like 19 or 20 years old.
Okay. So in that case, he's going to go find a place with some good hot chocolate.
I love that you're just like, the drinking age on this criminal hive is definitely 21.
20. I assume it's a Japanese
It's 20.
anime that we're creating.
Okay, gotcha.
And that would mean 20.
This place where there are 8 days a week and 38 hours a day is the drinking age is 20. No, you can basically go out in search of anything you want here. There are shops, there are restaurants. The habitat ring itself is a fairly good-sized city. Um, Obviously a narrow one, but fairly large, with lots of buildings, parks, and things like that. The bulk of the main sort of superstructure itself is mostly hangars, cargo bays, things like that, that have been retrofitted into various things like workshops. And so most of the fun stuff is going to be on that habitat ring.
I think that's where Mora goes.
Cool. Mora's heading toward the habitat ring. I know that's where Mattie's going. Zasha, where are you headed?
I think that Zasha, having a stern difference of opinion to Mattie, will try and channel some of that pent-up aggressive energy into finalizing changes on her mech. So she's actually going to go back to Avalanche, this Paladin Neon, and is going to fine-tune some controls and set things up, fix the HUD and her helmet and all that kind of stuff. Just pour over it as though it's the day before they were supposed to launch, that they never got the time to feel like part of the machine and really get a feel for inside the cockpit, now that their lives are not in jeopardy.
Yeah, you played the first level of this game without your mouse sensitivity set just the way you like it. So now you're going back and setting up all the key bindings and all that good stuff. Got it. And what about Tulip? Are you going to the quarters with threes, or are you heading to the habitat ring?
Tulip would be heading to the habitat ring, but she'd get a little sidetracked from the group as she says she makes up some bullshit like going for a snack, meet you back at the quarters. I'll be there quick. And she breaks off to go on a sort of on a name hunt. I know they wouldn't have a phone book in this old colony, but what is our analog that's not quite futuristic, but also VHS accessible? Yeah, a phone book. So
yeah, for sure.
So she essentially tries to probably to no avail, but she essentially tries to start looking up her Nana by name and see what she can find, and if not, she starts bothering people in like like bar type places that she think that she would find her Nan. But that's what she'd be doing.
Okay.
She goes on a little side quest for Nan.
Very cool. Okay, all of that noted. The first thing here, Zasha, as you're sort of wandering back to the hangar, you get lost a little bit. There's a lot of tunnels that branch off from this hangar, and even though you're heading in the right general direction, you kind of wind up in this sort of side hallway, and you see that there's kind of this like makeshift bazaar that's been set up. There's kind of these booths that are sort of lining each side of the tunnel, and various merchants that are hawking various things. There's like illegal cyber implants and various things like this. And as you're kind of walking through, not necessarily looking for anything in particular, but just trying to get back to the hangar, a voice calls out to you. You young woman here. I see that data crystal around your neck. Here. And you look, and there's this strange figure kind of cloaked, and it looks like they're wearing like a mask that has this like cluster of spider-like optic sensors that are glowing green inside the cloak, and they're kind of ushering you over with this cybernetic arm.
Zasha, straight-backed as ever, By the way, this is exactly my PAX experience. If anyone's ever been to PAX Unplugged, you
it-
get lost and then you're suddenly surrounded by people selling you stuff.
Cybernetic implants, and there's a like a,
Yep,
a,
they
a
call you
creepy,
ma'am.
like,
It doesn't matter.
robot person calling you over. Yeah.
But I kind of straight backed as always. She'll reach up and keep a hand on it, on the crystal around her neck, but we'll walk over.
This cloaked figure gestures to the table in front of them. It's not really a table, it's like a storage crate with a cloth on top of it, and there are a dozen different crystals, all various shapes and sizes, but all of them with the same sort of crystalline almost glimmer to them, as the same as around your neck. And this figure points to the crystal and says, "I will buy it from you." How
Why?
much?
Why?
I deal in data crystals. Each of these, information that cannot be found anywhere else.
Where do you find these? On random happenstance as people come by?
Derelict ships, people coming to and fro inside Nova Locus. Various places. I have been buying and selling these wondrous objects for a long time.
So Zasha has this kind of faraway look, like, why would the data crystal send her here of all places? It should be like, these things, can you look inside them in any way? Inspect the data, as it were?
No. They do not work like that. These are not like data chips, hard drives. These are creatures in and of themselves, beings that can only give you information they want to. Like people they are. Personalities all their own.
Interesting. I think I will hold on to this for now. I don't think I've gotten all the information from it.
You never will.
She kind of nods, and she doesn't take a step back, but she has that look as though she's almost recoiled from the idea of that. It's hard to wrap one's brain around, especially given how complex someone like Saxifrash has always been. The idea that this could be her, in essence, on this chain, it just kind of hits her very hard. And she says, "Thank you for asking. Can you point me to the hangar bay 13?
You go down this hallway, take 3 lefts, a right, a short dog to the left, through the pressure doors, up the elevator to level 2, and you're there.
Simple enough. Thank you.
If you ever get lost again, you know where to find me.
And your name?"
My name, Visk.
"Privyet, Zasha," she says, and kind of backs away a few steps, nods thankfully, and then turns.
And there's this odd sort of thing where you might glance back and you again see that cluster of spider-like eyes staring at you, and then you walk a short ways and look again, and she is not there anymore. She may have ducked away, but you do not see her anymore.
I'll bristle. Zasha kind of gets that unnerved feeling like it's a foreign place with foreign people, and the idea that she has something so inherently valuable now, other than the mech, it probably unsettles her quite a bit.
Mattie and Mora, you're heading back, or you're heading to the habitat ring. And It doesn't take you long to get there. There is signage all over the place leading you to it. And you end up going down this lift, this sort of tube lift that just goes for miles down to the surface of the habitat ring, down one of the pylons, and it's this strange sort of sensation where the pylon upon which the lift is traveling is attached to the ring that is rotating, and so you don't feel yourself rotating, but you see the ship rotating beneath you, and you have this strange sort of sickening sensation that would probably be a lot worse if you weren't like heavily trained in G-forces and dealing with vertigo and things like that. You might even feel the implant at the back of your neck like dump some special chemicals into your body to keep you from throwing up as you have this strange sensation. But soon enough, you find yourselves down in the habitat ring, and you step out of the lift, and you feel rain. It's raining. And you cannot remember the last time you felt rain on your face. You hear thunder rumbling in the distance, and there are people running with umbrellas, and they have to be those Blade Runner umbrellas that have the glowing. And they're running through puddles to get to drier locations, but the two of you step out and smell earth, air, and you feel water on your face, and that like just lovely scent of rain upon pavement hits you full in the face.
Mattie would just lift his face to the sky, and not to get too Blade Runner, but he literally has tears in his eyes that get masked by the rain, and he puts his arms out, and he sort of twirls in the rain, and he just begins splashing in puddles. And we see that this is a 17-year-old, and this is a 17-year-old who maybe for the first time in years is behaving like a child, and is allowed to behave like a child, and just lets loose and just starts running amok amongst the rain and the puddles.
Nate Vanderzee.
God damn, I gotta stop double muting. I do it as a security measure, and it backfires on me every time. Mora, how do you react to the rain, to seeing and smelling and feeling the rain, and seeing Mattie's reaction to it?
I think that Mora would be somewhat of the opposite. Mora loves the in-atmos spaceports, loves the feel of being on a ship. He was raised in that environment, never really understood the desire for such a natural environment because he had never really been in one, or at least very rarely. And he's more curious about what's powering this, what's creating it. But he's going to run to, I don't know, a glow umbrella vendor or something, and like buy a couple umbrellas, because he wants to keep the rain off of his head, and he's already drenched.
All right, you get a couple of those Blade Runner umbrellas. Add those to your inventory. I'm just kidding. You have umbrella now.
Sweet. It just hit me. I don't have currency on this character sheet,
Oh,
and
well,
I
you
never
can't
really
then.
thought
You're
I'd
gonna
need
have
to
to
buy.
haggle. Yeah.
How do you buy stuff in Mecha Hack? You trade in. Listen, I
Yeah,
got a sweet
power
mech.
roll.
You want a mech?
Yeah.
Yeah, power roll.
You just strong arm every vendor into giving you what you want.
Presence check.
Yeah. Yep.
But yes, I would take that and just kind of be moving off in one direction, taking a walk, looking around at the sights.
Tulip, you spend some time wandering around. There is no registry here. There's no census. The people who live here on Nova Locus are not tracked in any way. But word always gets around. And it doesn't take you long dropping the name. And does she have the same name as you?
Yeah, I think she would have the same name, and she'd be describing like small details, like scar on her cheek like this. You can't miss it. Grumpy as all heck. Drinks like a machine needs gasoline.
And a few people would say, "Oh yeah. I know her. You're gonna want to go to Hangar 17, the Chop House."
She, I imagine this was after quite a long bit of failure. So when that is heard, she would light up and say, was this like a public person or like a mercantile person?"
I think it was just like someone you maybe bumped into in a bar somewhere here in the main structure of Locus.
Okay, so similarly, I would put my presence check credits across the bar and say, "Rounds on me for a while," and stacks, and then she makes her way to that hangar, the Chop House.
A great cheer goes up when you buy a round of drinks for everyone, and you find your way to the Chop House, and it is a hangar. It's built very similarly to Hangar 13, where the Paladins are currently locked in place. But there's this neon sign above the door that says the Chop House, and you can smell engine oil and like burnt ozone, and just you see the flickering welding torches before you even get inside. And you step in, and there are ships laying just splayed out everywhere, like surgery patients, just wires and gears and circuit boards and parts laying everywhere, engines and thrusters, and there's a big gun turret in the center of the place that's being worked on. And there are people kind of wandering here and there, and as you walk in, no one really pays you any attention. As they continue working, breaking down these ships, building other ones, making repairs and modifications and things like that.
She'll scream probably for the second time, "Hello? Are you deaf?" And then she'll like kind of creak the door a little bit further and says, "I got something that needs fixing. My money's good." And perhaps she wrote over like essentially like just a thruster powered like kind of rent a bike. Just a little bit of a Kira aesthetic, but not so nice. Like more janky, more rent a bike.
I'm thinking like Capsule Corp sort of situation, big bulky.
Yes.
Like yeah. And as soon as you mention credits, this figure kind of pops up out of a ship nearby, popping up out of the innards of the ship, just covered in oil and holding a welding torch that is still going in one hand, and they have these big welding goggles on, and he's not much more than a kid. He's maybe 12 or 13 years old, even younger than you are. And he's wearing these sort of grimy overalls, and he takes down the torch and sort of sets it aside and puts the goggles up on his head, and he says, we don't work on bikes, we just work on ships, so you're gonna have to go elsewhere. Sorry.
Actually, someone told me that there's a Tulip Cho here that is actually a specialist on bikes like these. Tulip Cho.
Sorry, she doesn't work here anymore. But if you go down to the Habitat Ring, there's a guy down there, Chive. He works on bikes. You can tell him I sent you. Tanner. Tanner sent you. And he starts to put the welding goggles back on.
He says, okay, this bike isn't my bike. Tulip Cho is my grandmother. I came here looking for her. Sounds like you knew who she was.
He lifts the goggles up again. Shit. Yeah, come over here. And he kind of like wanders over to this little kitchenette that's set up, and there's like a part of a ship that is normally used for something else that is like brewing coffee, and he pours himself a mug and maybe even hands you one, and he hops up on a storage crate, starts sipping the coffee. I don't really know how to tell you this, but she died about a year ago.
Tulip kind of takes a audible gulp. Her eyes are a little watery and says, well, to tell you the truth, my folks told me she died a lot longer than that. Sorry, my folks told me that she died far longer ago than a year. I honestly thought she was gone. I just know she came here. This was the last place that she escaped to before we stopped hearing from her.
Yeah, she was a fixture of this place, and I mean, she hired all of us, and you kind of look around, and for the first time you notice that every person working here is a teenager or younger. And this kid, Tanner, says, none of us had folks. No moms, no dads. But Mama Tulip, she'd take in anybody.
She looks around, and as he says Mama Tulip, that's when it hits her and her eyes start to well up, and she bites her lower lip, and she's just like kind of like starting to gush, and she's like, yep, Nan was good people and liked good people too. Everyone was really sad when she decided to go. I guess I'd like to know more about why she came here. That she built all this. Wow. I didn't even know this much about her. And she would kind of be guffawed by everything that her Nana had created, and would just kind of snap back to it like someone too naive to have ever dealt with real death, and not in a serious, mature way. And she says, well, show me your haunt. I want to see the whole place. If it's Nan's, it's well, my name's Tulip Cho as well. Just saying. Just kidding.
She did talk about you. I remember her talking about you, and Well, you were probably the only person from before that she ever mentioned. Actually, hang on one second. And he kind of starts rifling through stuff, and he disappears for a little bit. Like, wrenches and things are being thrown as he's sort of like anime, like he keeps like teleporting around, like looking in different places. And then he eventually goes, found it! And he comes over, and there's this little like steel chest, just this little lockbox essentially. And on the top of it, there's this symbol sort of stencil spray painted on there, and it looks like it's like a wolf that's sort of like leaping. It's like a wolf mid-leap. And he pushes this lockbox to you. Mama Tulip always said that if anyone from before came looking for her, I was supposed to show him
that. When he says, if anyone from before came looking for her, Tulip hears it in Nan's voice, in almost as if she's there. And as she's gripping on to this lockbox, the insignia of the wolf, the chrome just kind of reflecting her own face in the wolf and the design, she nods and says, must have been important then. She looks around at everything that's happening in the workshop and just snickers to herself. Huh. You know, my folks would say, I told you so. They found out that Nan died in this place. In fact, it was part of why they were saying she was not one of us. But she would have loved to hear me hear all of the stuff that she's done with her time here. She didn't just pass away here. She passed on something. More than we were ever able to do in the underground. Toiling away for what? Resources. Nan built something here that lasted. I'm glad you got to meet her. It's kind of like getting to know her a little bit better, talking to you.
Well, hey, likewise. She taught me everything I know, everything about ships and how they work and get pieced together, and most importantly, how they come apart. That's how we make our money, piecing all these things out. A lot of salvage to be had out there in the nebula if you know where to look.
And she gives him, I don't know, a comm stick. And
sure,
says,
yeah.
I'm going to take this. I got some friends that are waiting for me on this colony, but make sure we talk a bit more about this before, well, I don't know how long we're staying. But let's talk some more.
Yeah.
I would love to hear more about Nan. And
come back anytime.
Thank you. And yeah, she would just nod with the briefcase in the air. It's probably as big as her shoulders are wide, and just say, I mean it. Thank you. And she'll run off.
You find your way back to the living quarters where you find Threes, and I imagine at some point Zasha probably would find her way up there as well after she was done working on her mech. Threes, what are you doing when Tulip gets back?
I don't know if I would still like. How long did this take? Was it
probably
like
a
between
couple
the time
hours?
that I got there?
Yeah, it was probably a couple hours. So I mean, you might be 2 hours into a 3-hour nap at this point. I don't know.
Yeah. I probably wouldn't be there. To be honest. As soon as I probably unpacked all my stuff, or as soon as Threes unpacked all of his stuff, if Tulip came back, you would see that there was kind of monitors and things like plugged in places. Um, you know, the the showing that like Threes was here and had unpacked and was working on something, but then had left in a hurry at some point. Um, yeah, so uh, for do what? So like, if I wanted to find something in this place, would I have to make like some kind of check, like to ask people and find my way around?
There's like enough going on here where given enough time you can kind of find whatever you're looking for, or you find the dead end eventually. So really it depends on what you're looking for, whether it's information, a particular item, a location.
Yeah. Um, so I feel like cool. So for Threes, I feel like when Tulip would come back and she would see that he wasn't there, and he would actually be wandering down corridors, talking to people, and like maybe there would be like this montage of like him talking to like multiple people and them pointing him in different directions, and him like wandering off. And the longer he's like kind of like moving through these corridors, you can see like almost like the more unstable his body seems to be, like shaking, kind of like leaning up against walls, to the point where towards the end of his journey you can kind of see that people are starting to give him kind of like a wide berth.
Mm-hmm.
And so eventually he kind of finds like the place that he's like looking for, and I imagine it's like some kind of shady like dealer place. And as soon as they see him, they kind of know exactly why he's there. And when he gets ushered in, it's like a place that has like a bunch of different plants and a bunch of different drugs of some sort. um, and whatever kind of like I would assume that in the haste of leaving the starship or the asteroid that they were living on, that he didn't have an opportunity to take the pills that kind of help keep his like attacks down.
Mm-hmm.
So in kind of like unpacking and stuff and trying to deal with like all the stuff that's going on, he's at this like backwater like drug dealer
Yeah.
trying to like buy like as close to like the official drugs that he was like supposed to be taking regularly to not have the stuff, at least not as overwhelming as it is right now.
For sure.
And that's where Threes would be at the moment.
So the place that you would find, they wouldn't necessarily have exactly what you're looking for, but the guy at the counter is sort of like, well, we can get it. You just wait around a little bit. And he kind of like speaks in this weird language you've never heard before to this other guy that's standing in the corner. And that guy runs outside and like hops on this little capsule corp style hover bike and sort of takes off down the street. And he says to you, we'll find what you're looking for. Don't worry.
And he'd say thanks. At the moment, I have nothing but time.
I know the feeling. Back at the living quarters, Tulip, you get back in there, and unless Zasha has come back upstairs from her Mecha, you would find the living quarters empty. Though,
I think it would be.
It's clear that Threes has unpacked and left his stuff sort of all over the place.
She would like carefully sidestep with like careful toe around the cords and the various things, and then she'd climb up to a top bunk, which is where she's always most comfortable. She would normally instinctively, as per the last years, pull out her game system and start filtering through the different levels in that like analog chunky machine. But instead, she is kind of awestruck and like spread out on her bed, and it's quiet in there since Threes is not present, and she just slowly unlatches for the first time this lockbox if she is able to, with the leaping wolf logo on the cover of it. And yeah, she just pushes it open like she's kind of like a kid, just like on the edge of her bed, like expecting it to glow or something.
Yeah, and it doesn't quite glow, but what you find inside is catches your breath for a moment. You open this lockbox, and inside are papers, just piles and piles of papers, and you're kind of looking through them quickly, trying to ascertain what they are, and it's schematics and plans and blueprints for all kinds of different things that your Nan was working on. And then you get to something you recognize, and in the corner of this schematic is that same symbol of the leaping wolf, and you see this strange looking ship. It is heavily armored. You can see that it's large, but designed to be nimble and quick. It's probably your Nan's greatest creation, her lifelong pursuit. And you can see that attached to this ship are 5 bays on rotating arms. Your Nan called these catapults, designed to launch mechs at high speeds into combat. At the bottom of this schematic, you see the word Okami, the big wolf.
I can't help but think that her eyes are glassy and massive, looking at this glorious treasure of both memory and opportunity. And she doesn't really know what to make of the final schematic. She looks at it, she squints. She realizes she's still not a mechanic, but she waits patiently and eagerly for Mattie Jai to return to base.
And as you do, you're kind of continuing to look through this lockbox, and you would find, in addition, a key, for lack of a better phrase. It's this large, chunky sort of ignition key that you would put into a starship. And attached to this key is a piece of paper. And you unroll the piece of paper, and it says, "I hid the big wolf in the mountain." And there's a set of coordinates.
Okay. With that said, as she holds the key and the note in her hand, and her heart starts to race with the excitement of just like the feeling that everything from the director to this moment in time is starting to flow in a connective tissue kind of way, not unlike how their brains control the mechs. She starts to feel purpose and meaning, and that rise continues, but now she's not just waiting for Mattie Jai, now she's waiting for everybody.
And we leave with a bit of a montage. We see Mattie Jai twirling like a kid in rain puddles, feeling the rain on his face. We see in the background, sort of out of focus, but then the camera focuses on Mora holding 2 umbrellas, just watching Mattie Jai and waiting for him to be done playing in the puddles. But also kind of smiling despite himself, kind of like, this is what this kid needed. We see Zasha sitting in the cockpit of her mech, running diagnostics, dialing in, fine-tuning everything, and then feeling the weight of that crystal around her neck. We see Threes sitting in the corner of this den, this strange sort of place that he found himself wandering into, his leg bouncing anxiously as he waits for relief to come. And the last thing we see is Tulip jumping up on her bed, holding the key in one hand and the note in the other with the coordinates to this big wolf, whatever that means. And as we pan up and we see the gaseous nebula that serves as the sky of the habitat ring of Nova Locus, we cut across Lodestar Alpha and we see a single Terran Collective cruiser sort of just drifting. And inside, the woman that looks eerily like Saxifrage leans over a star map. She slams her fist into the hollow projector, cracking the glass, and the star field flickers out. We don't know where they went. You cannot find them. So we must utilize other tools. She looks to the people stationed around her. I think it is time to activate the other Paladins. Zeva finds them for us. And that is where we will end the session for this evening, as the anime credits roll.
Running on a beach.
Yep. African safari.
Asano costume like it's really upbeat music playing.
Yeah. Yes. It's
Master have like mastered the idea of like closing out a session and making us all want the next session immediately.
You're welcome.
Yep. That's the hallmark right there. That episode, oh my gosh, I called it an episode. I try so hard to call them sessions because, it's I try to get into the player mentality more than any sort of viewer mentality, but this feels so much like an actual show that it's so easy to call it an episode. This was such an angsty, round character, sort of like showcasing like a perfect episode 3, and learning so much about Tulip was fantastic. That was really cool, exploring your backstory.
And now you see why we could not have this session if Matt couldn't make it.
I know.
Like, what would we have done? Like,
Yeah.
we're just floating around the nebula. Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah, no, that was fun. Thank you so much, Matt.
Yeah, absolutely.
thanks,
And thank you, everyone watching, for tuning in, for joining us for this campaign. We're going to have another session here in another 2 weeks, so please join us for that. I also just realized that I forgot to raffle off a PDF copy of the Mecha hacks, so we will do 2 of those next time. Sorry about that. But again, thank you everyone for joining us, for tuning in. I'll let these guys do their sign-offs, and then we'll call it a night. So go ahead.
Are we continuing the thing from last week where we all do like a inter-credit scene with our character? We describe like an yeah.
Yes.
I think you kind of have to. Yeah.
Okay, great.
We absolutely have to.
Last time I forgot. Okay,
cool. Yeah. We'll go ahead and do JB first, if you're ready.
Sure. Zasha is sitting in the cockpit with one hand typing away on this keyboard with the buttons far too large to be the alphabet, but somehow navigating through the systems diagnostically. And she looks down at this little port that has been opened in the cockpit of her machine, gleaming ever so gently, as if asking for this crystal to be inserted back in it. And she reaches up as if to pull it off of her neck and put it in. And then it cuts to like, I think a sundae with a bunch of cherries on top of it, and she's scooping it into her mouth or whatever as the credits go and the music starts playing again. and then it fades and cuts. But I am JB, also known as Drop the Die on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, OnlyFans, Patreon, like wherever, Ko-fi, you got me. Drop the Die everywhere. I make tabletop stuff, and I've even dabbled a little bit in Mecha Hack at this point, making some stuff to test out in this wonderful show that we've been doing. Tonight was fantastic, and thank you all for having me. MVP line for me nearly made me black out was, "That is heresy." My brain melted. I'm completely smooth brained at this moment. I'm glad I didn't have much to do after that. It was so good.
Yeah, that entire scene was fantastic. That was giving me the teen drama that I really wanted in this campaign. So thank you for that. Next up, Barker. Go ahead, man.
Yeah, that line really reminded us what the stakes were, and that was really well played. You see Mora on a beach being buried in the sand by a bunch of hedgehogs, and one of the hedgehogs like batting around his star, and he like busts out of the sand and chases the hedgehog around, and it says Barker on the screen, and then underneath it says at Inspire the Barks on Twitter, and that fades away, and then appears at Inspire the Story on Twitch, and that fades away, and you get the impression that he was having a really good time playing this game, and he was really happy with it. And I love this party. You're all wonderful. Thank you so much for playing in this, and I can't wait till next time already, as John said. If it weren't for your Nate Vanderzeeing, we would have heard who you called on.
I need help. I need a professional.
Matthew Click.
I know. Listen, it all went south when I tried to turn on studio mode on OBS earlier. I don't know what I was thinking. Who do I think I am? Aaron, you're up next.
All right. Well, so we see Mora has kind of, well, Mora has maybe walked away a little bit, realizing that that Mattie needs some personal time. And at some point, after all this, after the rain has died, there are now rivulets of like water in the gutters, in the streets, and there are little kids getting together now and folding up paper boats and putting them in these gutters and kind of like letting them sail off and playing around and splashing in these waters. And Mattie is immediately brought back to well, not Earth exactly, but back to reality. And to describe Mattie's like go-to sort of outfit throughout this is a Tintagel Station engineering core jumpsuit that has been cut at the sleeves and cut at the legs to kind of make this romper situation. And he's watching this, and there is this sort of darkening over his face, and he rips this Paladins patch off of his uniform, off of the jumpsuit, and he throws it in the gutter, and it kind of starts, sailing away, following the boats, and then just a few seconds later, we see that the patch is grabbed up from the water, and he takes the patch and he just puts it in his pocket and just shakes his head. And then we cut to I think I described this in another episode, but I'll go with it again. We're making a sand castle on the beach. I'm making a sand castle with clone saxifrage, and we're both wearing Lolita dresses, and there is and then all of a sudden, like my mech's foot comes down and it destroys the sand castle, and there's just sand over Saxifrage and me, and we look at each other and we hold each other's hands and we laugh. But I'm Aaron Van Sock, and you can just look up Aaron DVS. I would prefer Twitter, as I slowly but surely try to get myself off the hellscape that is Facebook. So please follow me there for hyper specific clownery. And other than that, thank you so much for this great session. I loved everybody's bits and everybody's what everybody provided to this. I think calling these episodes is perfectly fine. I think it encapsulates the energy of what we're trying to achieve with this game, and I think everyone's doing that so well. So, and thank you, Matt, for really giving us this wonderful framework in which to do that. So, yeah, look forward to. I can't wait for the next session. I'm really hyped for it.
Yeah, honestly, like okay, I'm not I'm not muted right now. You guys can hear me. I honestly sat back and just watched for most of the session, and that is, I feel like that's when the campaign really hits the sweet spot, is when you're just like, and like the PCs are pointing guns at each other and stuff, and you're like, this is great. Like, it's just, yeah, it's wonderful. All right, John, go ahead.
Yeah, so Regael would probably still be for his outro in that tent place, and the person still hasn't come back with the meds that he needs to stop having these flashbacks. And so he would keep having these, like, you know, losing touch with reality and seeing like images from his past, and as like anime does, it would be like reused images from like the scene before, with Mattie just like spraying down his thing with like the bubblegum stuff, and him like overlaying it with like a soldier in a uniform. But like as he's looking at it, the image would become like much more solid, and you would actually start to see the coloring of the uniform. And as it solidifies even more to the point that he can see the person in like the spacesuit with the military insignias on it standing outside of the moving shuttle that he's on, you can see that it's actually a Neo Dominion uniform that he has on. And as he like watches that guy and his father like pokes his head out, you can see that the gun goes off, and he just is pulled back as the guy like starts shaking him and says, "Hey man, you got your drugs." And yeah, then it would like, you know, cut to a scene of everybody breakdancing.
There's
Right.
just a piece of cardboard, or like a pizza box laid out on the beach. And,
Yeah. It was like one of my favorite endings is like all the characters breakdancing, and then like Three's just like shaking his head like, "I'm not gonna do it, bro."
I'm not gonna do
And
it.
then at the end, he like just busts like a move and like starts like doing all this stuff, and everybody's like, "Whoa!"
He's like up on his elbow, and yeah, exactly. Yep.
Were those
Spinning around on his
half-drawn characters? Whoa!
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So yeah, I'm John. You can catch me if you want to see more of me with RPG stuff at Out of Character on YouTube, and if you would like to see me play some cool games, you can catch me at Doombot Gaming on Facebook. But yeah, it was a great session. One more thing before I go, I also think that it's like really cool to call it an episode, because I've never really played in a game where everybody's doing like a separate thing. The whole party is pretty much split apart, but like it felt like in an episode where you're just flashing scenes and just seeing what everybody's doing. It felt like so smooth, and I was really terrified to pull that gun on you, Mattie. I was like, hopefully people aren't going to take this the wrong way. But I was like, it seems like such a good moment, and it's like such in his character.
Every one
Three-fifths
of
of the
my-
party agrees.
Every one of my favorite sessions ever involves one player pulling a gun on another player. I don't know what it is about that, but it's like, all right.
Even
This is
D&D,
amazing.
the wizard pulling a gun on the barbarian. He's like,
Yeah,
"Don't-
exactly.
Don't
He's got
think
an-
about it. Yeah.
Friggin'
Yeah,
Uzi.
but I mean, Maddie's like speech, like his whole like going in and ranting, and I was like, oh, that's it's like such a good moment, and I was like, oh damn, I feel like my character's not going to take really kindly to that though.
It really
Oh,
was
that's authentic,
the hero Yui duo Maxwell like butting
Yeah.
heads situation there for sure. Awesome. All right, and finally, Matt, go ahead.
Yeah, I think for Tulip's final scene, there'd be some like space punk rock music playing on a trashed boombox in a hangar, and sharing a crate as a table are a really young, like 5-year-old Tulip Cho and her grandmother. They're both sharing the same bowl of noodles. Um, and her grandmother just like kind of reaches forward and like scruffs her hair, nuggies her for a second, and then says something inaudible because there's music playing, and like kind of walks off and dithers away. And then Tulip's all alone, and she starts to grow up, literally in that chair. And then eventually she is 16-year-old Tulip Cho, and she still looks a little sad as she looks around the hangar. And then there's a poke on her back, and it's Mattie Jai, and Mattie sits down across from her on the same crate, and they both start to share a big ass bowl of noodles. And one of the hedgehogs just crawls onto that like maintenance tube thing that Mattie Jai used earlier and like triggers it by accident, and all the pink fucking foam just explodes everywhere, and then that like closes it out for the
That is incredible. Yeah, awesome. And yeah, the hedgehogs are now a meme in this campaign. The hedgehogs are all over the place. I feel like Janice brought them on to the station, and he did not anticipate how quickly they were going to populate. And they're everywhere now. Again, thank you everyone for watching. This has been great, and these players are incredible. Definitely go check them out elsewhere on the internet for more awesome stuff. So thank you everyone. Catch us in 2 weeks on Monday. It's actually less than 2 weeks. It's like a week and 5 days. So you don't have to wait that long for the next session. So anyway, thank you everyone. Take care. Happy gaming all, and we'll see you next time.